This is Show Me the Nuggets with Joe Troy. Eduardo Trinidad here, producer for Show Me the Nuggets. Thanks for tuning in. We're halfway through 2020 and it's been a crazy year. We've had a lot of amazing guests on the podcast, from heavy hitters and industry leaders, the likes of Ezra Firestone and John Logar, to SEO ninjas like Kyle Roof and Steve Toth. Today, what we're going to do is take a look back at our previous episodes and feature the top takeaways from all of our amazing guests. This is your mid-year recap, Part 1. Enjoy.
So when we were getting started, right before we hit record, we talked about, and after we hit record, pretty directly, we started talking about going after the end in mind and having the end in mind. And you talked about how important that is. For me, the light bulb that I get people to understand that has worked, and I'm curious what your light bulb is. But when I talk with agency owners and I say, do you want to do this forever? And they're like, no. I'm like, so it's a business then, right? It's not like a freelance thing because you want to be able to exit one day. All of a sudden they go, oh crap. Like this isn't, like if it's freelance, nobody wants to buy it. I have to build a business. And that's how I've been able to get people to have that aha moment, John, where they finally like treat it like a business. And they niche down and they come up with a core offer and they get serious about the things that are going to move the needle. I'm curious for you, John, with all the people that you've coached and all the crazy success stories that your students have had, what's the thing that has helped people to have that aha moment?
I think the biggest thing is that concept of thinking bigger. You know, having that idea. So, well, okay, if I want to have this as a business, then I can't do this on my own. But the big aha is I need people, I need help, I need support to be able to do this. And so now the considerations are bigger. You're sitting there thinking, okay, if I step out of this business, I need to be in a position where it still runs without me. That's the thing. I've got to start hiring certain people so that I can scale. You cannot scale without hiring people. There's no, unless you're in an e-commerce business where it's just you in a store, yeah, you can make $1 million or a couple of $1 million, but you're going to have to work really, really hard, and the margins are really, really small. In this business, the margins can be really big if you get them right. And the other thing is a lot of people undervalue their skills. So if you're building something, if you have some skills, you can systemize those skills, and those skills become saleable. Those systems, that IP that you're developing becomes scalable. I have champions now that are developing products to support their market. They use that as the entry point, and then they use it done for you as a secondary opener. Or they do the reverse. They go, we do it done for you, but to get you up to speed, we've got this program here that we want you to invest in. So the thought process really is that I want to be able to step out of my business and have my business still grow. I have to hire a team to scale. I can't do this on my own. And I've got to get really serious about sales. Consistency in sales is critical in this business. I had the good fortune to sit down with Robert Herjavec, the guy from Shark Tank, from Herjavec Industries. Exited out of $300 million business, has another business at $250 million in the cybersecurity space. And I'll never forget the conversation, because I sat there and said, look, at the end of the day, all bullshit aside, Robert, what's it take to make it happen in a business? And he just said to me, John, when times are great, sales above all else. When times are shit, sales above all else. Sales solves all problems. And on the other flip side of that, he didn't have this as a quote, but he says, and then sales creates all the problems. But he said, sales above all else. So if I look at the people that I work with, our number one focus is to get consistent in being able to bring on clients every single month. The philosophy that I like to take is one client every 10 days. The average client should be investing between $25,000 and $36,000 plus per annum in your business if you're running a recurring model. No less than that. Very hard to make profit less than that. And you want to be working with people over time. You want to have clients for years to come, not clients for 30 days, 90 days. And this is the mistake a lot of people make when they're just starting out, is they're doing this trial thing. You don't need to do, if you're using resource partners like Invisible PPC, you don't need to do a trial. You've already got case studies, you've already got results, you've got 100, 200 clients, 300 clients that you're managing. That's a toolbox. that you can bring to people and say, hey, my team manages over 200 clients in the marketplace in 50 different niches. My team is responsible for millions of dollars worth of ad spend every single month. My team has the resources, the systems, the processes to leverage your opportunity. And to get the best possible results is we need to scale. And to scale means we need to work together in a process that we're going to be working over a period of time, not over 30 days. You can't get people, you can get basic results, or you can get some results, but you can't get people the results they're looking for in 30 days. And you certainly, even at 90 days, the results are just starting to kind of create momentum, and they give up. And so what happens to the marketplace is we have taught them to give up every 90 days to go and find somebody else. This is what the market has told you. So one of the things I would highly encourage you to do is they can't buy it unless you offer it. And what you want to offer is a 12-month program, a minimum of 12-month program. If they're going to be with you 12 months, they're going to stay with you for another year or 2 years if you look after them, if you nurture them and have great client relationship. But that's the trick. And here's the thing: don't call it a month-to-month contract. Don't call it a 12-month contract, and don't call it a we're doing Facebook ads for 12 months, management for ads 12 months. We're not doing that. What we're doing, or the words you should be using, is we have a 12-month business development program, and one of our core areas is Facebook or AdWords or Omni retargeting or whatever it is that we do. It is not everything that we do. And people will pay for strategy, which is what most people don't charge for. People will pay more for strategy than they will for the service, right? We have people that I work with that do just sell websites, right? But to buy a website from them, you've got to have a $25,000 development piece. Before you buy the website, you've got to give them 25 grand up front to do a blueprint on your website. Your website is going to cost you between $150,000 and $300,000 plus. Websites, right? Website developer, small team, 5 people working on major projects, making $2 to $3 million a year selling websites, right? Systemized process, IP around strategy. Strategy is a line item that you need to put on your invoice for clients, because you're thinking about that on how to get better results for your client.
When somebody brings a business to you, Dustin, like what are some of the kind of qualification criteria? Like what are you looking for in order for it to be one of those 1, 2, or 3 deals that you take on at a time? Obviously, I'm sure you get hit with a lot of deal flow, and obviously you're going to have to turn a lot of those down. What are the things that people need to be doing now so that they can come to you and make sure that they can work with somebody that's a good broker and not representing literally dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of different businesses?
Yeah, that's a really good point, and that's exactly right. That's the other side of that hands-on approach, is that we're very selective in the businesses that we work with. 2 things. I have an ebook called Exit on Demand that or white paper, actually I call it, that goes over everything you need to do to make sure your business is ready for sale. High level, broad strokes, stuff that is actually accomplishable, not down to the nitty gritty. Sometimes we have to refer people off to a consultant that's going to work with them for a year to get the financials in order and get a growth strategy that makes sense so that the business is sellable. But high level, there are some basic things that you need to do that are covered in that white paper. And then what I'm looking for when I'm evaluating a business is I like to see a business that has profit. There are a couple points of education, right? And I think before I get into that, let me dispel some of the confusion out there, where SaaS businesses in particular, and I know that most of the audience here is agencies, right? But SaaS businesses in particular have this notion that you can sell a business without any profit, and that is true once it gets to a certain size. So, and SaaS businesses are fairly unique in that once they get to a certain size, you can sell it based on a multiple of top line revenue. But even SaaS businesses and every other kind of business is only going to trade on a multiple of profit. So if somebody comes to me and says, "Yeah, I've got this great business, it's not making profit yet, but there's a ton of potential," that's not something I can sell. That's something that you might be able to go to a VC and convince them that you've got this great idea, and all they need to do is give you money to get it profitable. And that may work, but that's not my world. So buyers, people who want to acquire businesses, They want to buy on a multiple of profit. So that's the first thing, is that the business needs to be profitable. And for a smaller business, say a business that's making less than $500,000 a year in net profit, that can be the definition of profit can be a little bit more flexible. It doesn't have to be a really rigid EBITDA. It can be SDE, or seller discretionary earnings. So, but once you get above about 500,000 in net profits, it needs to be more formalized, and it needs to be EBITDA, which means that the profit is after someone running the business takes their salary. So under that price range, it's acceptable that you consider the money you're taking out of the business personally to be profit, but above that, it really needs to be formalized with a CEO or somebody, a salary in place, and then profit is after that. So that's the first thing.
The key number is 500,000.
Yeah, around there.
It's
nothing
crazy. I've seen like mill and a half, and it's all SDE, and they're trying to pull out their multiple on SDE, and I'm like, what do you mean? There's no team here. The owner's working like 80 hours a week. Like, I don't want to buy a job. Like, no
that's
thanks.
Right.
Like,
that's right. That doesn't fly. That's exactly right. And it's just this is all coming from what the market will bear, right? And this is something that I spend a lot of time educating my brokers, and then also educating sellers on, is that this is not my opinion. This is not, just like Dustin's rules. This is what buyers say to me when I put up a business, and I say, yeah, it's 640 top line and 630 net. And they're like, no, that exactly like you said. That we have to make allowances for somebody to actually run that business.
Yep.
So, and that may be the case. You may be running your business with no one in place. And there are SaaS businesses, not agencies, but there are SaaS businesses that can coast for a year or two without anybody running it.
Yep.
So, yeah. And so let's talk about maybe the next criteria, which apply very specifically to agencies. And this is something that is important for agency owners to think about, which you talked about, is to have a management team in place, right? If you're trying to sell a business and claiming that there's more than 500,000 or 400,000 or 500,000 in profit, there needs to be a management team that is running that business, because that's exactly right. If somebody's going to pay $1.5 million, they're not trying to buy a job; they're buying a business, and so that business, they absolutely are going to come in, and they're going to provide vision and leadership and make plans and strategies, but there needs to be a team in place that's executing the daily operations of the business.
Yes, man. When you look at launching a new brand, when you look at launching a new product, going into a new vertical, what's the 80-20, right? Like, what are the things that like you would do differently now than when you started Brandzio and your first brand? Like, what are the shortcuts? What are the things, like, forget about this. Everybody says do these things, don't do this, right? Just focus on this. Like, what's the 80-20?
I think the one thing that I would definitely focus on a lot more this time around would be like twofold. First of all, having the right people in place. I can't stress that enough, right? Having well-trained people. It doesn't need to be cheap, and it doesn't need to be too expensive. People think expensive means that you're getting a better quality, and people think cheap, hiring VAs in the Philippines or India or something just because is a cash flow thing. It's everybody's read the 4-hour work week. It's not really relevant in this case, right? Just that book has destroyed a lot of businesses. What I highly believe is this: good talent can be found anywhere in the world. It can be found in the slums in Rio. It can be found in Nicaragua. It can be found in Bosnia. It can be found in Kazakhstan. It can be found in New Zealand. Right? Having the motivation of these people is your job as an entrepreneur. Is to get these people together. Right? So it brings me back to what I had said earlier. What problem are you trying to solve? Right? Once you find out what problem you're trying to solve, you need to find the people who are going to help you solve that problem. And if the people who you're trying to hire don't believe in what you believe in, it's very easy for people to see through that quite easily. So, your employees will know you're bullshitting. They know that you're going to be up to no good. So please don't hire those kind of people. Some people just want a job, and I was a working man for somebody once, and I just wanted a job. I wanted my $50,000-$60,000 a year, and I was like, man, I'm so happy. Just give me my 50-60 grand. I'll go home. I'll work 8 hours for you, and that's it. You don't want those people. You want people who come to work every day and they have a spring in their step. The second thing is, which I believe ties in with quite importantly, is the product that you create has to have an oomph, right? If you yourself are not going to use it, please don't put it out in the market. When I first started making watches, I went to trading houses. I went to like all these, and I got like, honestly, man, pardon my French, it's like I got really shit watches. I was paying like $8 for a watch, and I was like, man, these watches are good. People will buy them. Don't worry about it, And then came my first bans on Facebook and Google. People were like, I was living that short-term mentality, and honest to God, I would never go back there. And this is I'm coming up quite clean and honest with you guys. It's like it's not the way to go. And what I would have made, what, $50,000 in 6 months? Yeah, sure. What would I have done? I would have taken it and run away home, and that's it. What, gone and lived for like 3 months or 4 months in Europe for the summer or whatever. It's such a short-term mentality, right? So hence then the second term comes, which is like, oh, I want to build a product, I want to build a brand, I want to build something for the long term. When I build that, the people I'm surrounded with find my vision extremely motivating, right? So I have a good one too. So that is why I can run 15 brands, because people are excited about a good product that they're selling to customers, and they feel amazing about providing great service for a good product that customers are using.
Thinking about e-com and Google and Bing and shopping, what do you think is kind of the 80-20? What's, like, you're a big fan of the 4-hour work week, obviously. Like, what are the big things for anybody doing e-com or having clients that come to them or prospects come to them with e-com? What's the 80-20 of Google ads and Google shopping for e-com?
I mean, it always comes down to the core trifecta, doesn't it? Your targeting, your ads, and your bids. So 80-20 is just focus on those three things and get them dead on right. Like your targeting, so if you're doing paid search, that's going to be your keywords. If you're doing display, that's going to be your audiences or your retargeting or your contextual keywords. If you're doing shopping, that's going to be down to your product feed. And then your creative, your ad copy, like what ads are you putting out there? How's their CTR? How's their quality score? That kind of thing. And then bids and budgets, like those three things are like, if you get, everything else is just details, isn't it? When it comes into PPC, but really what we do with this and with most forms of online advertising is just make sure we get the right ads, targeting, and bids.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, at the end of the day, Google, especially, pay-per-click, especially Google, and Bing. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a math equation between those three things, really, and then profitability, right?
Yeah.
And I think people overthink the heck out of it, right? And it's just like, well, you have your data, you've been running it. Now what's your profitability and where do we need to be? Okay, great.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's average position? What's our max? What are we max able to pay per click? All right, great. Let's start trimming it back, and then let's start split testing against it. So love the simplicity. I'm curious, Daryl, in your business, how often when you take on an e-com client, do you have to get involved with CRO or upsells or something on the back end, so to speak, so that you can effectively do your job, right? Managing the traffic and the paid ad spend.
Yeah. So CRO, we don't get involved with, and I draw a clear line there. Clients often ask me this and say, "Oh, what can you do for our landing pages?" And my line is always the same. It's like, as PPC specialists, we have some knowledge over what works in terms of your landing page and your CRO, but it's limited to just doing enough to make Google happy. Like, we can tell you if your landing page is so terrible that it's going to cause issues with your PPC campaign. But beyond that, beyond like landing page best practices, things that you can do to increase your site conversion rate beyond good enough, that's on us. And hey, if you want that kind of advice, let me refer you to someone else in my network. So I think it's like really important to keep that Rolodex of your colleagues within the wider marketing industry, and be able to refer leads, and just focus on what you're specialized at. So I focus very much on Google Ads PPC for e-commerce. Someone comes to me and says, hey, I really need CRO or SEO or web development, or I need Facebook ads for a lead gen campaign. I'll just say, that's great. That's not really what we do, but maybe I can put you in touch with someone who does do that. So I try and draw a really fine line there, but that's not to say we don't get sucked into this stuff sometimes. For us, the most common place we get sucked into back-end stuff is around tracking, conversion tracking and installing pixels. And sometimes clients just don't have the expertise or resource in-house to be able to effectively install tracking pixels when we send them the instructions. So over the years, me and my team, we have picked up some skills in Shopify. We know our way around the back end of Shopify, and we know how to install Google Tag Manager on our own without any help from a web developer. And I think that's kind of necessary. And we've picked up more knowledge on the Google Analytics side of things as well. And then beyond that, like everywhere else, I just try and draw clear lines. Like I tell clients, we're the traffic guys. Like we can't help you with your SEO. We can't help you with your LPO or your CRO. We're the traffic guys. So we're very good at traffic. We're very good at paid traffic. But if you need anything else, just let me know. I can refer you to someone, but that's not us.
So tell us about Profit First.
So Profit First currently is my most popular book, but I think, and I'm very proud of that book. I think I have another book that's going to kind of supersede that one. I have a new book I'm launching in April. Profit First is what came about from the realization that the vast majority of small businesses are not profitable, and I was one of them for way too long. And I was wondering, like, why am I not profitable? The key reason I started my business was for profit. Like, I wanted financial freedom, and I didn't do it. And there was a study that's conducted. There's 180 million small businesses globally. That's defined by the SBA as a company that does $25 million in revenue or less, and 83% of them are surviving check by check. No profits, dying on the vine. And I'm like, why is this? Because this is the whole reason we do this. What's wrong with us? And that's when I had an epiphany for me. I was like, oh my God, the formula to profit is the wrong formula. We're told that sales minus expenses equals profit. That's the formula. And it's wrong, because it tells us that profit is last. And it's even in our vernacular. So we call profit the bottom line. We call it the year end. All those terms say profit comes last. Here's what's wrong with that. When something comes last, it's human nature to say it's insignificant. You know, those guys are real jerks. That's why they're last on my list. That's why they're bottom feeders, you know. Your health. Have you ever had a health scare? You would never say, you know what, I really got to start putting my health last. You'd put it first. It's human nature. Something that's last is insignificant, can be avoided, and can be delayed. When something is important, it comes first. I put my health first. I put my family first. I put my best friends first. That's the problem with profit. They say it comes last. So in execution, most business owners wait till the end of the quarter, the end of the year, look at their income statement, no profit. Oh, darn it, maybe next year. And we literally wait another 365 days, or this is a leap year, so 366 days, for profit. Here's the new formula. I teach in Profit First. It's sales minus profit equals expenses. So profit comes first. In action, every time we have a sale, money flows into our business. We take a predetermined percentage of that money, profit, hide it away in a profit account, and the leftover is what's available to operate the business. So now you have to operate your business within the confines of what you define as profitability. If you want to achieve 10% profit, take 10% profit first, and you can only spend what's left over. We're reverse engineering profit. In fact, this system's been around forever. It's called the pay yourself first principle. And it's existed in personal finances. I'm just the guy who says this applies to business finances too.
It's funny. At a young age, I actually got introduced to that. My dad got out, the little envelopes, and
Yeah,
here you go. You got your paycheck. Now this goes in here, this goes in here, and it wasn't exactly laid out, right? Like Profit First is, but ultimately, like, here's how you manage your money.
that's the system.
And ultimately, man, I wish I would have just applied that to business a whole lot sooner.
The answer is me too. Me too, because my mother taught us the system. She had an envelope for the mortgage, one for the church that we went to, and one for food. And I remember she would grab the food envelope and go to the food store, and she worked with the food envelope. So with Profit
Yep.
First, what we do, and we set this up at our bank. So the real simple system is you have, we call it the 5 foundational accounts: income, profit, owner's comp, tax, and OPEX. I explain it all in detail in the book. But money flows in the income account, and then we allocate it to the different envelopes, if you will. Now, since we've pre-allocated money at the bank to its intended use, when we log into our bank account, and most business owners run their business off their bank accounts, so continue to do that. When you log in, now you know what the intended use of the funds is before you spend it. If it's for operations of the business, it must come out of OPEX. If it's for your profitability, it comes out of the profit account. That's the core concept. So it's the envelope system matched with a few other things, the pay yourself first principle, so forth, applied. And that's the basics. There's more steps to prevent yourself from stealing from yourself and so forth. But foundationally, you're taking your profit first, allocating to its intended use, and working within those parameters.
So me running the agency and marketing side of the business, like, it's pretty profitable. If you watch your bottom line, right? If you really pay attention to things. But I never used to really pay attention to it because there was always just lots of cash sitting in the bank account, or so I thought, right? So I just operated it like, the whole thing was just mine and it was all profit, but it wasn't. And that was wrong. So, man, I love, like, I get a little twitch and it's like, how profitable am I? I log in and I see, my profit account, and I see exactly how much money there is, and it's down to the dollar. It's down to the cent, and it's like the flick of the wrist. Like, it's nice finally knowing where I actually stand.
Yeah, that's my favorite part, is that based upon a behavior we've always done, log into our bank accounts to look at how much money we have, we now start to see the flow of cash through our business. We see what money is available for profit, what's available to pay ourselves a salary, which is different than profit. Profit is a reward for being a shareholder. Owner's compensation is a salary for working what we do in our business, the work we do. We even reserve money for taxes. So when tax time comes, the business can pay your taxes. And this is regardless, you can have an S Corp, C Corp, your business can always pay your taxes. You just do it through a special mechanism. So you got to speak with an accountant to do it right, but the money can be reserved. And then you see what's truly available. And so one example is if $1,000 flows into your business, I used to say, I got $1,000 to spend. Wrong. Some of that goes to profit, some goes to owner's comp, some goes to tax. I may only have $600 for my business or $400, but now I know what I have to work with. And what's so amazing about human nature, I talk about the concept in the book, it's called Parkinson's Law. It's human nature to work within the confines of what we have. If we have more money, we will spend more. If we have less money, we'll spend less, force frugality, but also we become very innovative and we stretch the dollars. So I'm very honored and proud to say that we have over 300,000 companies that have successfully implemented Profit First and are more profitable than ever before because of this. It's pretty ridiculously simple, but it works.
On another podcast recently, I heard you break down kind of the different buyer personas of people that buy. And I thought that was really cool. People that buy sites and the different personas. Can you walk through kind of high level who those different types of people are? Because I think that matches up with what you just said, right? It's like you're coming in, you're brand spanking new, but you want to buy SaaS? Like that's not quite a fit. And I think it's important that people, like, sometimes people just don't even know the right questions to ask, right? So they come in and it's just like, yeah, SaaS, I want that, right? But they don't understand the ramifications of that as a decision. So I think it would be cool if you could walk us through the different buyer personas, so to speak.
Yeah, recurring revenue is great till the code breaks and they're like, oh shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So the different buyer personas, and we have seller personas too, but seller personas tend to be a little bit more common, like with what they share. Buyer personas is really based off a few different things. So the most common of them all is what we call newbie norm. They're the ones just starting off. Maybe they are that person with 500K. Just because they're new doesn't mean they don't have money. They often can have a lot of money. Maybe they're a real estate investor, a stockbroker, whatever it is, just a high net worth individual. But they're not super skilled yet with online business. They're still just trying to figure everything out. And if you're the seller selling to someone like Newbie Norm, then I always advise you to be very supportive. Instead of 30-day support, which is pretty normal, maybe offer 60-day support. They probably won't even need it. But the point is to make them feel confident that you're there with them, not that you're just like, gone like smoke and mirrors the moment that you get the money, right? So those are newbie norms. Like I said, those are very common, mainly because our industry is growing so much. So you always are going to have more new people than the veterans typically. Then the next one that is really common is portfolio Paul. So this would be like probably a lot of people in your audience that are pretty skilled at affiliate marketing. They're building out real brands that are monetized through affiliate sites or Amazon FBA businesses or e-commerce stores. It all, doesn't matter in terms of business model, but their basic premise is I want to build a portfolio of high cash flow streams, right? And they sometimes diversify through different business models, or more likely the same business model, but diversify with different brands and maybe different paid traffic or different traffic sources in general, that kind of thing. The next one is Flipper Fred. And so this is where we get half of our name actually as Empire Flippers. And these are the guys just like real estate flippers, right? You come in, you buy a house for, I don't know, 40K or 50K, and you do renovations, and now it's worth 100K, 150K, and you flip it, right? So same exact concept. They come in and buy a $100,000, $200,000 site from us. They increase that net profit, and then they sell it for almost double, or sometimes much more than double, depending on how well they did, usually over a 6 to 12 month period. Since I've been with EF, I've seen the same business sold, I think, 4 times. So it's pretty cool. 2 times that business went up significantly as well. So those 3 are probably the most common of them all. And then there is one's called like Strategic Sally, for instance. Now if you use a broker like us, it's unlikely you'll find a Strategic Sally, because they typically won't use a broker, because what they're looking for is so specific that unless the broker goes and finds the deal for them, they're often not going to find what they want on the marketplace. It does happen, it's just really rare. That person is like, say they owned a jump rope business, right? E-commerce that sells jump ropes, and they go and find an affiliate site all about fitness. And so there's synergy there where the sums of their parts are greater than the individual, or however that saying goes. So they're willing to pay a higher multiple typically than other buyers, because they understand the value of what that synergy can bring to them. And then there's Investor Ivan. So Investor Ivan, he is similar to Portfolio Paul, typically less online business skills, but they tend to understand the model. And they'll usually have an operator who's actually running the business, and they're more like the money person. So they supply the capital. And they tend to love, especially e-commerce businesses, because a lot of the reasons why sellers sell e-commerce businesses, because they want to take the cash out, right? Like Amazon FBA, very capital intensive business. You're always putting more money in to get to that next margin break, right? And so an Investor Ivan can come in and just instantly deploy that cash and get that economies of scale right away that will increase their margin. So they tend to love e-commerce businesses, but they buy other ones as well, of course. And finally, this guy is called Do-It-Yourself Dave, or DIY Dave. And usually this is like the second transformation of what happens to a newbie norm once they get into it and understand the business a little bit better. This is someone that is like, ready to roll up their sleeves. They like to buy stuff, particularly that have a problem that they can go and fix. They really want to get into the nitty gritty of everything. So those are the different kinds of personas of everything.
So, Craig, what's your method of staying afloat and staying up with all the trends and updates in the industry? Because like you said, I feel like the basics are the basics. They're the best practices. They're the fundamentals. And they're frankly what most people skip and don't get done, right? Yeah. And you've talked about them repeatedly. But it's because so many people are freaking out about, the whiz-bang gizmo of the week or the month, and it's really because there's not shit to talk about. Like, most of the shit that works and is the fundamentals are staying the same. So how do you stay afloat, right, in terms of mentally what's working and what's not, and stay on top of the updates? How do you keep your game sharp?
I think, masterminds and dealing with surrounding yourself with the right people in the industry. I've got a lot of friends, as I've mentioned before, the likes of Dooley or whatever, and people all over the world that we regularly have masterminds and sit there and shoot the shit and show each other like, hey, look at this tool I'm using, it does this, or, even doing a a podcast with the likes of you, you might say one thing there that I'll take and go, fuck, he said this, I need to check this out. So I think putting yourself out there, I speak at a lot of conferences anyway, and people say, he's at every conference going. I don't only go to conferences to speak, it's the networking and being at the bar after it and, catching up with a whole bunch of guys where I really feel there's massive value, and that allows me to keep on top of things. Getting off your fat ass and going and meeting these people and spending time with them, like you did when Dooley was over in America. You met up with the guys there, had a few beers, showed each other a few tricks, and boom, I've no doubt in my mind with the guys that were there, you've picked up something, and you'd be crazy not to do that on a regular ongoing basis. So I try, and at least once a month when I'm at an event, hook up with other people. I'll go to an event. If I'm speaking in America, I will meet up with various other people in the days leading up to the event as well, and I'll be sucking as much as I can. Obviously, I'll be offering value to them as well, but I'd quite happily meet with you, Joe, and we could sit there and shoot the shit all day and all night, talking beers, and we both leave that pub with a lot more value and, maybe just something, triggering something to go and action something. And I think that's the only real way you can do it. Get to masterminds or just meet up with people for a beer or whatever. People are very, very open to meeting, and if someone's in Florida, why not shoot up the likes of Joe and say, Joe, do you fancy a beer or going out for a meal? Let's do it. And people are very open to that, and I'm not sure personally, I don't know what it's like in America, but in the UK, people are not they don't have great social skills, so they're not up for going out with a stranger for a beer and asking them some stuff. And I think that's where the problem lies. There's this kind of mental block where people are saying, I could never go out with Joe. I've never met him in my life. What am I going to talk to him about? Whereas someone like me, I could probably talk to you for fucking 48 hours solid about all this stuff. So I think, and that's their loss in my gain as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think it's just like that in the United States, and people have perceived perceptions of levels that people are at and where they're at, and I can't talk to that person. Like, that's all just bullshit in your head, right? And as long as you have the mindset, like you said, to basically lead with value and to help them as well, right? Like, it's going to be very well perceived. So will you get blown off every once in a while? Yeah, right. But more often than not, I don't get blown off, right? And most of the people that I'm outreaching to and trying to connect with have no idea who the heck I am. So it's not like, it's because I have an audience and that's why it works for me. That's not it, right? It's just that I put out more effort and try more than most people.
What's worked for you with dentists in terms of getting their attention so that you can actually then have that sales conversation?
So I've actually used the same system since I started, which is really, really easy. There's two ways I do this. I do this either through cold email outreach, which is just a very simple message saying, hey, are you accepting new patients? Taking them, and they always answer yes, and taking them through a sequence of trying to get them to engage. Or what I do, and this is more old school, but it works really well. If I go into a city, I'll basically go into a city, I'll look at that particular city, like who's ranking on top, and then I'll do a video, literally why that, because I'll do some deep research. Like, I'll understand how many citations I'll get deep research. It takes me maybe an hour to do it. And then I'll have all those notes written down, and I'll record a video of why that person is ranking number one and how you can take them over, and then send that email or send that video to every single one in that city. And I usually get I can get at least one pretty much every single time. But that's like old school. I don't think people do that type of stuff anymore. I did that when I first started out, and people are like so lazy now that they don't want to go into that. But it's probably one of the most effective ways. Like, if I really need a customer, that's how I do it.
I hit on that so hard, man. All the time with my people, with the agencies I work with at Invisible PPC, the agencies that I coach at Digital Triggers. It's like, how hard is it to come up with a 20-minute audit that you can run for a market, right? To figure out, for Chicago dentists, right, what's working and what's the competition have and how do you beat them, and to record a video that's personalized and to knock that out, right, and then send it to everybody in the market. Like, how lazy do you have to be to not see the ROI in that strategy?
Yeah. Do you want to know my secret sauce that I don't ever share with anybody?
I want the secret sauce, man. We all want it.
This is
show me the nuggets, right?
I've never shared this publicly, to be honest with you. And a couple people know. So I basically can guarantee a dentist I can get him ranked in 6 months, like number one. But I have to have the right,
let's do this.
I have to have the right dentist. So I'm not going to reveal any of my customers, so I don't want them to be, destroyed and everyone market to them. So how I do it, and you're gonna know this is dumb simple. You're like, that's easy to do. So what I do is, if a dentist wants to approach me and I start working with them, I'm like, okay, this is the game plan. This is what we're gonna have to do. Do you want more business off the internet? Yes. Do you want to get more patients off the internet? Yes. Is that like your number one goal to grow your practice? Yes. Okay. So this is what you're gonna have to do. And if you're not gonna do it, we're not gonna work together. You're gonna have to change the name of your practice and get a new URL. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, we are changing the name of your practice and we're getting you a new URL. And they're like, huh? So like, for example, Chicago Dentist, right? I mean, that's a huge, I wouldn't be able to get chicagodentist.com, but I may be able to get thechicagodentist.com or northchicagodentist.com or something like that. So the first stage is they change their name. They register that with the state so that it shows up in as a whatever called DBA, so it shows there. And then basically we get the URL of whatever the business name is. So whatever the business name that we choose on, let's just call it the Chicago Dentist. That's their new business name. They get a new sign. They get new everything. I'm like, do you want to win or not? They go down that path. We get a new URL. We then we usually redo the site because we want new code on the back for Google to crawl. And then we go to town on the directories of updating all of them or making new ones if we can't update them and just saying screw it. And then we go to town on press releases, and I'm done in about 3 months. And they're already on page 1, and about 6 are like number 1 for Chicago Dentist. But
so that is huge. So ultimately, at the end of the day, you're going after almost like an exact match domain, because we know keyword loaded business names rank. You're just throwing in a little variation, right? The or north or downtown or something like that, so that you have a very close to variation of the exact match name.
And it was scary for me to do this in the beginning, because I had a dentist that was willing to do it, and now I'm like so confident with it because I've got like all of them just pegged that will do it. I mean, pegged at number 1, like they don't move. And so, and I show it to them. I have the results, and they're like, "That's nuts." I'm like, I'll just tell them, "Go type that in. Go type that in. Go type that in. Go type." They're like, "Huh?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "But you got to do it." And they're like, "I'm like, what does it matter?" And so that's my secret squirrel behind the scenes. I'm a good salesperson, so I can do it. But it is amazing. It's kind of like, the way I always try to explain to them is like, think about this. Google's job is to give you the best results possible so that you keep coming back to them. So if IBM, wants to, they don't need to rank for their own name, because you type in IBM, Google wants you to show you IBM. It's the same concept. If you're Chicago Dentist and your name is the Chicago Dentist and it's legit, it's not fake, you're not trying to screw the system. And that's the whole thing, that's why I'm like, change your name, DBA, the whole 9. And so that's how that works. And so that's my little secret sauce of how I can get a new dentist and just go to town on it. And it's not very difficult to get them to rank.